Hi there, it's Tamara Doris, your Sacramento real estate professor and your Sacramento real estate professional. And I want to talk today about short sales. I recently sent out a mailing to people who, according to the Sacramento records, are in default. And yeah, of course, I would love to list their home if that's their intention. If they're like, I don't know if I can stay in this home, I have to sell it, then let me be the agent to sell it. But I say that with the caveat of, if there's a way to stay in your home, let's do that first, if that's what you want. Okay, so when I send out notice of default letters to people who are in default, I don't send out the default. I send letters saying, I know you're in default. Here are your three options, and I can help you if you want. Only one of them is to sell the house. Okay, that might not be what they want. They can also do a loan modification, or they can do a short sale, right? In some cases, they're too far into it and none of those will work. And then, we either do a short sale, or if there's equity in it, then we can do a traditional listing. But my goal when I send those letters out is to honestly help people be able to stay in their home. Case in point, I was just talking to a young man, and I say young, he was in his 30s, who came to one of my open houses and was telling me this horrible story about how he had bought a home with someone, and it was just a friend. It wasn't someone he was married to, it was just a friend, and she decided she wanted out of the deal. And so here they were, roommates living in this house that they were buying together, and she decided she wanted out. The problem was the loan is in her name, and so the courts told him he had to sell the house. Now, this wasn't exactly a notice of default, but it was similar to one. And the courts told him he had the sign in the yard. He was very distraught about it. And it's illegal and unethical for me to give real estate advice to anyone who is already under the contract with another agent. So I had to be very, very careful in what I said, and I definitely didn't want to say anything that would get me in trouble or be unethical. But I gave him some resources, and he texted me about a week later, and he said, I cannot thank you enough. I don't have to sell my home now. Now, I don't know what he did. All I did was give him some resources and told him some different options that if he were my client, I would give him. I didn't want to step on any other agent's toes. That is, again, illegal and unethical, but I just gave him some loopholes. And apparently one of them worked, and he was able to stay in his home. And that made me really happy. Did I get a listing? No. Did I get money off of it? Not a penny. But I'm a firm believer in the more that you help people, the more people that you have to help. And that always comes back around financially. So I'm not worried about that. Anyway, today's video is about short sales. And I wanted to explain what a short sale is. Now, back in 2000, when the crash came at 2008, all the way to 2010 or 11, I was the short sale queen of Sacramento. And let me tell you, when that crash happened, nobody was prepared. Nobody knew how to even do a short sale. I remember my mom had done one, God rest her soul, she had done one probably about 7 years before the market crashed. So she knew the process. So when the market crashed, I'm like, okay, Mom, let's, tell me how to do this. And I just took it and I ran with it. And I helped so many people save their home. So what is a short sale, and why would you possibly want one? A short sale is when you owe more on your property than the current market value says that it's worth. So you own a property that you're still paying a $500,000 loan on, and now it's $470,000 in value. Even if you sold it, you wouldn't be able to pay the bank, you wouldn't be able to pay closing costs, you wouldn't be able to pay real estate commissions, right? So all of that you would not be able to pay. A short sale is when an agent who is experienced and skilled, and we're talking like, the market crash of 2008 skilled over here, but someone has to be skilled because it is not an easy listing. But here's what happens. The very first thing that goes on is the agent who you decide you're going to work with will get you to sign something called a third-party authorization. And the reason we have to do that before anything else is because when I go to call your bank to try to negotiate letting you out of the loan for a lesser amount than you owe, they're going to say, where's your third-party authorization form? So that's the very first thing that we have to have. And that's just very simple. It just has your loan number on it, your name, and your signature that says, I have the authority to speak on your behalf to find out anything I need to find out about your loan and to possibly negotiate on your behalf should it come to that. Then what we do, and we can list it, we have to disclose that it's a short sale. And there's a lot of variables in a short sale. What is the current market value? But I want to look at the human side of it for a moment. Why would you want to do a short sale as opposed to just let it be foreclosed upon? And the answer is, in my opinion, dignity is a lot of it, right? I mean, having your house foreclosed on with the auction date posted on your front door or on your window, it's humiliating. It's embarrassing. It stabs your dignity, right? People will tell you, well, a short sale on your record is no better. It'll say on your credit score, it'll say settled for a lesser amount. But let me tell you, that settled for a lesser amount, when it comes time for you to buy another property, is going to be much more favorable than a foreclose. You have a foreclosure, it's like 7 years, nobody's going to talk to you. You're not going to be able to borrow money for anything. But if you have a short sale, it shows, it's still not great on your credit, but it shows that you had integrity, that you maintained your dignity, and that you took steps and measures to satisfy the bank. Because what the bank reports is settled for less than. You get that? So that's the reason you want to do it if that's what situation you're in. Now, can you stay in the property? Yes, and that is another thing that I will help you with if the lender is open to it. And I don't get paid a penny for it, but it's just part of my service, because you know what? If I help you out and you get to stay in your home, and then a year, 3 years, 5 years later, you move, you're going to list. Who are you going to list with? You're going to list with me because I helped you when you really needed help. So that's kind of the strategy, is from a marketing point. That's my strategy. If I help you now, you'll remember me later. Or maybe you never move, but your brother-in-law wants to buy a house. And you're like, hey, I trust this agent, right? So that's the reason when agents say they do it or they'll help you, even if they don't get paid, some of them won't. So you have to really make sure that that's the real deal. Anyway, next step. So in order for you to do a short sale, in order for the lender to agree to do a short sale, you have to have a hardship, some kind of hardship. It could be a health condition or an illness. It could be a divorce. It could be a loss in the family. It could be a loss of employment, a loss of income. But there has to be a hardship. I remember in 2009, one of my first 10 short sales. And the hardship was that they were making less money and that their daughter had to get braces. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't know about that. Is a lender going to feel bad because the daughter had to get braces? But it ended up being a big orthodontic expense that she went into it before she started losing her her overtime. She had lots of overtime, and she just so she got her daughter braces, so she's in debt like $25,000 with the dentist or whatever it was, and then she stopped getting overtime. So now all of a sudden she's in a hardship position, and it flew. The lender went for it, and here's what you have to ask yourself. Why would a lender say, okay, you borrowed $400,000 from me, and now you want me to settle for $350,000? Why in the world would I do that? And I'm going to tell you why. Because if I, as an agent, can get a fair market value for that property, that's going to save the bank probably more than $50,000 if they had to execute a foreclosure. So as a homeowner, you need to understand that. Banks do not want to own property. Banks use property as collateral. They lend you money so you can buy a property, and if you ever don't pay that money back, they're going to take your house away. But they do not want it to get to that extent, because when they take your house away, now all of a sudden they're in the real estate business. That's not the goal. And it's going to cost them. Just think about all the work that goes into it. First of all, they're going to pay commissions to an agent who listed anyway, because they're going to, if it forecloses, they're going to get an agent to list the house, right? So they already have that cost anyway. But what else do they have to do? Well, they have to pay all the court fees for public notice of auction, all the different things that go into it. If you don't move out, and then they have to pay to have you physically extracted from the property. I mean, it can get really ugly, which is unnecessary in my opinion. But anyway, it costs them more money to do a foreclosure on your house than it would to do a short sale. And, you know, and at the end of the day, do you think they're not going to write that off, the loss? Of course they are, right? So I don't know how lending institutes, I'm not a CPA, so I don't know how lending institutes do that, but I'm guessing that it's better and easier for them. In fact, I know it's better and easier for them to do a short sale than it is to go through the whole foreclosure process. Okay? So that's the reason the bank would be enticed to do it. But at the same time, there's a lot of negotiation going on. When I bring them an offer on your short sale property, and you know, I have to really support it with the comps. I have to price it right, but they want as much money as possible. So I show them the comps, I show them the offer, and the first place they negotiate usually is with my commission, and that's fine. You know, I'm totally open to negotiating with them and taking less if I can get you out of this situation. So that's okay. But then they start nitpicking about other things. And so what's really important when you have a short sale is that the buyers and the buyer's agents have to be really aware that a short sale, there's not going to be a request for repairs. The bank's not going to fix anything that's wrong with it. I mean, they just are trying to be what they consider considerate, letting you out of the transaction. And at the end of the day, saving themselves a whole lot of trouble with a foreclosure. But if you have a buyer that comes back and they're like, well, we want that fixed and that fixed, that's not going to fly. So if you are watching this and you're a new agent, in other words, newer than 2008 market crash, and you don't know anything about short sales, please don't write an offer on a short sale without calling the short sale listing agent, so that you're just really aware and you can educate your buyer on what they need to know. They can't expect certain things. Also, you have to anticipate it's going to be a long escrow, because I think maybe a few times I closed in a 30 or 40 day period. But most short sales take 60 to 90 days because it has to go banks and lending institutes. They have to go through all these different departments and processes and, you know, whatever. So it is a lot of work. But at the end of the day, it's better for you. It's better for you to do a short sale than it is to be foreclosed upon. So if I can help you, if you find yourself running behind in payments, maybe it's not too late. There are some ways that you can work around that. I'm happy to have a conversation with you. I'm not an attorney, I'm not a CPA, but I can give you real estate advice that's pretty sound and that's based on many, many years experience. So if I can help you, look at the link below, give me a call, and let's chat. Have a great day for now.